There have been a lot of negative outcomes attributed to repressing your sexuality.
Absolutely.
High rates of suicide, depression. How do you think an organization like Hope for Wholeness rationalizes that? I didn't necessarily want to tell my story, but I feel like I have to.
I think the majority of America does not realize that conversion therapy actually exists. It's still alive and well and everywhere.
Sharing these almost erotic stories with someone who clearly was getting enjoyment out of them.
So I found a therapist.
I was not and am not a therapist.
You'll never be successful. You'll never find love. You'll never find happiness.
This was how they wanted you to feel.
We're talking about people who have destroyed lives, who have caused suicides, who are guilty.
So thank you for taking the time to talk to me today about Conversion, your new movie, which our reviewer in London raved about. And also, he stressed how much he learned about the subject, which is really important to us too. Can we start with you telling us in a few words, in your own words, what the film is about?
Yeah, so the film started when I found out that my former conversion therapist was still practicing. It was really shocking to me. I kind of assumed, it was 2018, 2019 at the time. I assumed those things are over, but they weren't. And I was shocked. So I wanted to make a PSA. And I got connected to other survivors. There have been other documentaries about conversion therapy done before, but they have not come from the perspective of people who actually went through it. And so, our film, you're hearing from 3 different people who went through it, along with, some other experts and one of the former conversion therapy leaders, but you're really hearing it from our perspective. And it's also, directed by me, who also went through conversion therapy. So it's a pretty unique perspective and different than a lot of the other films out there on the subject.
How did you find your people?
I didn't come out until I was 26. And when I did, I lost a lot of the support and community that I had worked so hard to maintain for so many years. I wasn't forced to go into conversion therapy. I wanted to go at the end of I was a child. I was manipulated, but at the time I didn't see any other option. And so slowly coming out and meeting other people and, now having such an amazing chosen family and people that are part of my community and really finding and meeting those people has made all the difference. But, like anything, it takes work and it's slow and it happens over time. But I guess most good things are like that. So
I think the most important thing about the film was it was your first-hand experience. Was that tough for you to share?
Absolutely. In the very beginning, I didn't really want to share my story. I always thought, well, I'll just be the director behind the scenes. But the more we started filming, the more, some of the other producers were encouraging me to share my story as part of it as well. I have been behind camera my whole life and my whole, adult professional career. So it was very different for me to be on the other side of the camera and very vulnerable. But, I'm very proud of how the film turned out. And it's hard, putting something out that is so personal, but I believe that it's important as well.
Some of the practices are both illegal and immoral, I thought, and barbaric. Why are they still in use?
I think a lot of people are afraid of people who are different than them. And I think parents, when they come from a certain perspective, they don't necessarily want to hurt their kid, but they want their kid to be successful. They're worried. They have all these fears that have been put into them of, well, if my child is LGBTQ in some way, their life is going to be ruined. How do I fix that? And so they will do almost anything that they can, and they see it as a problem that needs to be fixed. And what they don't realize is that they aren't fixing any problem because it's not a problem. The problem that they're creating is the trauma and the harm that conversion therapy causes. So, I can understand their perspective to a certain degree, but that doesn't make it okay. And I think a lot of parents don't know what it actually is. They just drop their kid off, leave, and, the pastor recommended it, so it must be good. And so that's one of the things that I hope our film does, is really sheds more light on it and what it actually is and how insidious it can be, so that way people know more of what it is they're dropping their kid off to.
So, in your personal experience, how tough was it for you to go back and revisit the charlatans who were responsible for so much of the harm?
In the film, we interviewed McCrae Game, who led one of the larger conversion therapy groups in the world, really. And he was part of the he ran the overarching group that the person I went to see for conversion therapy was under. So, McCrae was directly involved in some of the things that I went through as a child. And he came out in 2019, I believe, and came out very publicly about his story. And so I asked him to do an interview, and we literally got in the car and drove to South Carolina the next day.
Mhm.
And uh, we immediately started interviewing him and listening to him. And it was very difficult, but it was also kind of interesting to see the the teachings that this guy had had for so long were told to me as a child as if they were akin to the Bible or to God's word. Like, this is what God's word is. And to sit in the living room across from this very broken man who clearly didn't have an understanding of, a lot of things in life, really kind of peeked behind the curtain in a way that was very powerful, very uncomfortable for me, but very powerful. And I hope that it gives viewers that same experience.
Yeah, I think it was a very important part of the story to tell us the other parts of the LGBT community, because sometimes we're too distant from each other. Is it still very much a practice that's going on?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, this is still very much a practice that's going on. It is, there are lots of groups that will say, like, oh, well, we don't like electroshock kids anymore, or we don't do that. And those things do still happen in different forms, but a lot of people will say, like, oh, we don't practice conversion therapy, we just do this thing now. And whatever they're saying this is, whether that's, let's call it reparative therapy, or there's other words that they will use for it, reintegrative therapy, reintegrative protocols, some more words that they're using now. And they're trying to like make it hip and with the times, and make it sound
Yeah.
like something that it isn't. So they're still, and they're similar to we are now. They also are on Zoom and on uh, other platforms that help get around the laws. And everyone should have the right to religious freedom in our country, but they are using those as workarounds to say this is our religious right to try to change people. And that obviously is a way that they're working around it. So, a lot of people think the laws are all encompassing, and they definitely are not.
Yeah.
They protect some people in certain situations, and I think they help get the word out that this is still going on, but they definitely are not. There is conversion therapy happening in all 50 states right now.
I was aware of it, but you've made me think much harder about this. What should we do as a reaction? What should we do to help?
I just hope that people get involved however you can. I mean, obviously, would love for everyone to watch the film and to share and get involved in that way. But also, I think just reaching out to whoever in your community that might need help. When I started out making this, it was a PSA, and the target audience for this, I think a lot of people will identify with themes in the film, uh, in terms of personal autonomy and the right to be able to live our lives as we want, uh, are all themes that people can identify with. But I was always thinking about, what is that 14-year-old kid? What would I have needed to see at 14 that maybe wouldn't have gotten me out of that situation immediately, but would have made me help see the cracks faster and would have helped me get out of that situation? Because again, I didn't come out until I was 26. So what can I do to help other people get out of those bad situations faster? And yeah, so unfortunately, it is still going on. And I think that people, by watching this film, by learning more about the practice, maybe you're like, well, I would never send my kid to conversion therapy. But now that the film is out there, even my aunts, uncles, teachers, people on the periphery were like, oh, I just had no idea. I wish I would have known, and all this. And I think if people are more educated and they understand what the warning signs are, maybe someone would have noticed. And not that it's any of their fault, but I think in terms of moving forward, if people are more informed, they can help um, prevent things like this from happening.
You are using queer cinema as it should be used to help us and to educate us and to keep us together as a complete community, because I'm sure the rest of us don't do enough. Thank you for the film, and thank you. And I hope the journey on will help other people and we can avoid situations like this eventually in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And just again, if people can please go and watch the film, it's on Apple TV, and would love for everyone to be able to see it.
Thank you.
We're talking about people who have destroyed lives, who have caused suicides, who are guilty.
A sort of never-ending industry.
You were to inflict physical pain or sensation on yourself.
He took his life that night.
I went through an exorcism to get rid of this gay demon.
We will never know how many people are lost because of this. But what you can do is save individuals. We are going to save future lives. We are going to be more persuasive to parents.
I feel like conversion therapy changed so many things about myself.